I got a car, and then I found a cheap place through bands I used to tour with when I was on the road. Found like a room at like I think it was like a double wide or something for $300 a month. And I just like packed my drums, my guitar, and like all my stuff in a car. And like my birthday was coming up in a couple of weeks. So I waited for my birthday, and the very next morning I drove to Nashville, and that was pretty much it. And ironically, I went to the studio, and it's where Josh Osborne and Shane McAnally did all of their demo sessions at. So my first day in Nashville, I was making coffee, and I think it was like, I know Trevor Rosen was there. If you know any session players, I know Ilya Tashinsky was there, and Tony Lucido, Derek Wells, I believe he might have been there as well. But they were doing the first pre-pro on the first Old Dominion EP. And I was, and then my first demos I started working on, I mean, it was Sangria. I'm trying to think, like any Josh Osborne, Shane song, there's a million of them had come out and been hits since then. But I mean, that was like literally my first day, 12 hours out of being in the area code 615. I was in the studio, not even realizing, because I didn't know who those people were at the time, and it was just insane. And that would have been the first time I'd have met Ashley as well, would have been on some of those demo sessions, just coming in and out of the studio. So it's crazy. So I got to a place where pretty quickly I was able to start invoicing Ben, because I was actually taking relieving him of some of his like vocal sessions, some of his pre-mixing and doing programming. And I was able to start doing track demos for people on the side to make money. And that's kind of how I fully got involved, and not just being the dude, turning knobs in the studio and just hitting record. Like I actually was having creative say in these demos and whatnot. And Ashley heard one of these demos, and then he had brought in Hunter Phelps actually to do it. He had just signed Hunter. He was about to sign Hunter. And he was basically, I did a demo session for him and Brian Simpson, who worked at the studio all the time, for A Guy with a Girl, is a Blake Shelton hit. And I cut those vocals, and that was the first time I had really run into Ashley at the studio, and working with Brian a bunch. Basically, I kind of knew him through that, and then he just called me and was like, "Have you ever thought about writing full time?" So he called me just from a random 615 number one day, and I was just like, "Yeah, I'll start taking it seriously," and putting my attention towards that full time. Otherwise, I was just sort of comfortable at the studio. I was working in music. I was starting to make money enough to support myself at this point. My parents weren't paying for anything anymore. And, I would probably have just been fine kind of continuing to produce projects and start moving up from there. But I mean, I'm so glad he kind of pulled me out of that world. And once I started taking it seriously, and then he took a chance on me and signed me, just helping kind of guide me and like viewing like the way that he would write. I don't know. He was always super supportive and really good to let me know, hey, like this is really, really cool. And it sounds cool, but let's look at the core of the song. Maybe make this actual song better. Because as a producer, I can get super into how it sounds and does it seem cool, but Ashley cares about the core of the song is, more probably than he cares about it just being hitty or whatever. He wants it to be a good song. And he was always very like pushing me to, hey, drums, everything sounds amazing, but hey, it sounds like a hit, but is the song a hit? You know what I mean? Like he would just help guide me to try and push me to be better. I would do stuff that was great early on, and I was like, this is amazing. And then he was like, yeah, I just need to make sure it's the best it can be. Like, and that kept me fighting. Every time I click send, when I would turn songs into him, I would want to know that he was going to think it sounded like, a great song. And to be honest with you, when I signed with Ashley, he was very successful at that time, but I've been with him for probably 8 or 9 years now. And I mean, he has come a very, very long way, you know, since then. Now he's like, I don't know, he's like immortalized as Ashley Gorley, which he might not necessarily have been back then. He was just a really great songwriter.